Thunderbolt appeared in 2011 on that year's MacBook Pro. There are two types of connectors designated Thunderbolt. The Mini DisplayPort connector features 20 pins and is used with Thunderbolt versions 1 and 2, and the more modern USB-C connector has 24 pins and is used with Thunderbolt versions 3, 4, and 5. Now, be aware, though, that not all USB Type-C ports support Thunderbolt. Some, for example, only support USB. The Thunderbolt port gained initial popularity in Mac OS devices, such as MacBooks, for storage and display peripherals, but it can also perform device charging operations, and it can daisy chain up to 6 devices. Thunderbolt can mate up with USB, FireWire, HDMI, and other interfaces, and is now supported on many non-Apple devices. Well, let's take a quick look at the versions of Thunderbolt that are in use today. There are 5 as of this writing. In terms of speed and year adopted, Thunderbolt version 1 in 2011 could handle 10 gigabits per second and used Mini DisplayPort connectors on a PCI Express bus. 2013 brought version 2, doubling the maximum throughput and keeping the same physical specifications as version 1. Then, in 2016, Apple introduced Thunderbolt V3, topping out at 40 gigabits per second over a USB Type-C connector. Thunderbolt 3 became the basis for USB 4. Thunderbolt V4 appeared in 2020. It keeps the same top speed, but guarantees certain capabilities that may not be present in a Thunderbolt 3 port. For example, a Thunderbolt 4 port must be able to support 2 4K displays, whereas Thunderbolt 3 only has to support 1. Also, Thunderbolt 4 supports the use of hubs, similar to USB hubs, instead of using daisy chaining. Finally, Thunderbolt 5 supports 80 gigabits per second speeds, higher in some circumstances, a beefy 240 watts of charging capacity, and 2 8K monitors running at the same time. Here is a 2025 Thunderbolt cable from Apple. If you have excellent eyes or a magnifying glass, you can see the version 5 designation on the connector. Thunderbolt cable specifications can be a bit confusing, so we have to read the specs before buying if we want to get all the speed and capability that we expect. Thunderbolt V3 and V4 cables can be passive, that is, with no internal circuitry, or active, the active ones supporting longer lengths and higher speeds. A passive Thunderbolt cable typically runs at 20 gigabits per second if it's longer than 0.8 meters, but 40 gigabits per second if shorter than that. Active Thunderbolt cables can support the full 40 gigabits per second all the way up to 2 or 3 meters, depending on the cable. Thunderbolt 5 cables are all passive as I write this, about 1 meter long and supporting symmetrical communication up to 80 gigabits per second or asymmetric communication at 120 and 40 gigabits per second. Audio connections have traditionally used 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch phone jacks and plugs, and these remain common wired connectors in the mobile device world. If you look at the plug in the photo, which is a stereo plug, it has 3 parts separated by black insulating rings: a tip, a ring, and a sleeve. These connectors, therefore, are called TRS. Mono connectors just have a tip and a sleeve, so they're known as TS. Apple famously dropped this connector in the iPhone 7, but it's still present on many other portable devices. Pro audio interfaces can connect using a variety of multi-purpose ports, and HDMI, which we normally think of in terms of video, can also transport audio signals, as can DisplayPort. Here's a picture of a typical computer speaker cable with TRS connectors on both ends. Now, it's not unusual on older devices to see 2 audio jacks, one for audio output and another for audio input. In such cases, the TRS jack is typically used in the never-ending quest to save space so that mobile devices can keep getting thinner and lighter. Newer mobile devices frequently sport a combo jack that can handle both outbound and inbound audio with the same port. If you connect a headset to a combo jack, it will typically be with a TRRS style connector because the extra connection allows both stereo audio out and mono audio in. Note that a standalone microphone may not work with a combo jack, in which case a USB audio interface could save the day. Now, Apple's Lightning connector sounds similar to Thunderbolt, but it's a very different animal. It debuted with the iPhone 5 back in 2012, uses an 8-pin oval connector that, like USB Type-C connectors, is symmetric and reversible. The Lightning connector was used in iOS devices such as the iPad and the iPhone for device charging and peripheral connection. It was also used to connect an iOS device to another computer. Lightning replaced an older asymmetric 30-pin connector and could interface with a wide variety of devices, including USB, HDMI, VGA, and SD cards. Here's a picture of a Lightning connector on an iPhone. If you ever got a bit of dirt or dust in the jack, a bit of compressed air or contact cleaner often worked wonders. Now, I mentioned that Lightning is close to obsolete, but as I write this, a few devices still use it. Here's a list. I'm not aware of any new devices being built with the Lightning port. We'll close this short clip with a brief mention of FireWire, also known by its formal specification number of 1394. This port's not really used anymore, but you may see it on older Mac systems. FireWire is a serial interface that was implemented broadly in both 400 megabit per second and 800 megabit per second versions. It was used most often for external storage and for professional audio-video interfaces.